All right then, good afternoon and welcome to this meeting. This is Debbie Alden from Governance Services. Under agenda item 1, Councillor Ben Garner was nominated as chair prior to the start of the meeting. Are all members agreeable to this?
Yes.
Thank you, they are nodding. Therefore, I will formally elect Councillor Garner to the chair.
Thank you. Afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this remote hearing of the Licensing Subcommittee. My name is Councillor Ben Garner and I'll be chairing today's hearing. Before we proceed further, could I remind everyone that today's meeting is being streamed live on the Leeds City Council YouTube channel. Could I ask the other two members of the subcommittee to introduce themselves? Councillor Richards.
Hello, I'm Councillor Linda Richards.
And Councillor Wenham.
Hello, Councillor Angela Wenham. Do you want me to say which ward I'm from, or does that matter?
You can if you want.
Okay, from the Wronghay ward.
Thank you. And I would just like to start the hearing today by confirming that this meeting of the Licensing Subcommittee, although remote, meets the requirements of the Council's constitution. And while items today will be fully discussed as usual, remote attendance requires a few changes to how the debate is managed. So just a reminder, can everyone mute the microphone unless invited to speak by myself as chair, just to avoid disruption from background noise, and can all participants, where possible, keep the cameras on during the hearing. And all participants will be invited to introduce themselves at the start of the hearing to make it clear to whoever's watching, public observers, who's involved in proceedings. So as usual, even though it's been a few months of these now, just ask for your assistance and patience while we go through the process. Could I now invite officers to introduce themselves and mute yourselves once you've introduced yourself, starting with Philippa from Legal Services.
Good afternoon, it's Philippa Murray. I'm a solicitor in the Legal Services Department of the Council and here to advise the committee this afternoon.
And Matthew, Entertainment Licensing.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Matthew, part of Entertainment Licensing, and today I'm supported by Victoria Radford.
We've got Debbie from Governance Services.
Thank you, Chair. Debbie from Governance Services, and I'm clerking today's meeting.
And I think that's it from the officers who aren't part of responsible authorities and things like that. So could I ask the applicant of the review application to introduce yourself as Sam?
Thank you, Chair. I'm Samantha Longfellow-Pennicott. I'm the applicant acting on behalf of the Licensing Authority.
Brilliant. And we don't have the premises license holder or representative here. So could I ask the responsible authorities who are supporting the licensing authorities review application to introduce yourselves, starting with West Yorkshire Police?
Good afternoon, Chair, Councillors. I'm Sarah Blencon. I'm a licensing officer with West Yorkshire Police.
Thank you, Sarah. And the Environmental Protection Team?
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Jessica Dayton from the Environmental Protection Team of Leeds City Council.
Thank you. And we do have a representation, a written representation from the Cleaner Neighbourhoods team, but they're not in attendance today. So moving to the agenda, could I ask the clerk to go through agenda items 2 onwards?
Thank you. Under agenda item 2, there are no appeals against the refusal of inspection of documents. Agenda item 3, there is some exempt information at Appendix E, and this was submitted to the report and is exempt under 9.2b and 10.1 of the Regulation 14 of the Licensing Act 2003, Hearings Regulations 2005. Could I therefore request that members resolve to exclude the press and the public from the meeting should they require any discussion on Appendix E?
It's fine with me.
So agenda item 4, there are no formal late items. However, there has been some supplementary information which has been received from the applicant, and this was in the form of a notice to surrender the premises licence. This has been distributed to all parties. Agenda item 5, could I ask members to declare any disclosable pecuniary interests?
None.
None.
Thank you. Thank you,
None.
Chair. Right, that's it. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Debbie. So moving on to agenda item 6, the main item, review of the premises licence for the new Middleton 4 Forbes Street, Middleton, LS10 4HD. Could the legal advisor to the subcommittee outline the procedure for the hearing, please?
Yes, thank you, Chair. It is an application for the review of the premises licence for the new Middleton number 4 Thorpe Street, Middleton, Leeds, LS10 4HD. The procedure for such an application is that the applicant, here Leeds City Council as the licensing authority, address the committee first. Those who have made representations address the committee after that. The applicant has a chance to respond to anything that's said during the course of verbal presentation. The representations are usually dealt with in the following order. The licence holder, however, here the licence holder hasn't submitted representations and hasn't attended. So first of all, the West Yorkshire Police, and then the Environmental Protection Team, followed by the Cleaner Neighbourhoods Team, who I think again don't attend, but they have made representations. There haven't been any representations from members of the public that we have to hear. In making its determination, the subcommittee will consider what is appropriate and proportionate to promote the licensing objectives. Those objectives are the prevention of crime and disorder, public safety, the prevention of public nuisance, and the protection of children from harm. In relation to time limits, the licensing regulations allow the subcommittee to set a time limit on presentations, providing that the same time limit is applied to each party. Our usual time limit is 15 minutes per party, and the applicant may choose to split their time between the presentation and reserve some time to respond to any of the comments made during the course of the meeting. Could I ask the chair if the subcommittee does want to impose a time limit today, and if so, what time limit they would seek to impose?
I suppose the easiest way is, does anyone, either the licensing authority or any responsible authorities, need more than 15 minutes? Which won't include sort of time for questions from members. So.
I don't require more than 15 minutes, Chair.
Excellent.
No, me either.
Me either.
Thank you. If Councillor Richard, Councillor Wenham, if you're happy enough with up to 15, but it doesn't sound like we're going to get there from everyone who's going to speak.
No.
I'm happy with that time.
I'm happy with that.
Thank you very much, and we'll apply that 15-minute time limit. And can I perhaps ask the applicant if you would like to split that time between the presentation and then a time to respond to anything that comes up during the meeting?
Yes, please. I envision 10 minutes, really, no more than that, and then 5 minutes to sum up should I require it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Following each presentation, the subcommittee members may wish to ask questions. The time for questions to be asked and to be answered is in addition to the time limit set for presentations. And please note that cross-examination isn't permitted in subcommittee. If any party does feel that there's a crucial question that should be asked and should be answered, please direct that request to the chair, who will determine whether or not the question should be put. Parties can request permission to call witnesses. Could I ask if any party does want to call any witnesses today?
No, thank you.
Perhaps we can start with the applicant. No.
Sorry, no, thank you.
No, thank you.
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Documents that have been previously submitted have been circulated to the subcommittee in advance, and can I perhaps just check that each person has a pack of 80 pages, and that's what we're working from today.
Yeah.
I'll take it we all have 80 pages in that case. There has been supplementary information, the letter from Julie Jackson dated the 10th of September, and can I perhaps confirm that each of the councillors has had sight of that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had sight of that.
Yes, I have.
Thank you very much. It would be helpful when those addressing the subcommittee are referring to documents, if you could perhaps identify the document you're referring to, possibly by the page number in the pack. Any additional documents may now only be tabled with the consent of each of the parties. Do any of the parties have additional documents that they want the committee to take into account?
No.
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 Lovely, thank you. And please note that your presentation is your only opportunity to address the subcommittee, and that there's no further right to sum up your case. So you need to make sure that you have said everything that you want to say and to have taken into account during your presentation. After each of the parties have made their presentations and after the questions have been considered, the members will consider whether they do have all the information they require to make a decision. And once this point is reached, members of the committee will go into a private session. They may return to ask additional questions. They will then return to a private session in order to make the decision. And could I ask that all of the parties remain in the meeting until they are asked to leave? Each of the parties will be informed once the meeting has ended, and they will be informed of the decision within 5 working days of today's date. Can I ask if there are any representations about the procedure the subcommittee proposes to follow before we start? Okay, thank you very much, Chair.
Thanks, Philippa. Could the licensing officer present the application, please?
Yeah, of course. Thank you, Chair. So today members are asked to consider an application for the review of a premise licence held by the New Middleton at 4 Thorpe Street, Middleton, Leeds, LS10. The application is made by the licensing authority and was served on the 12th of February 2020. In order to provide a little bit of background information, the original hearings to consider this application was scheduled to take place on the 10th of August. However, the licensing authority requested to adjourn the hearing as we were unable to clarify if certain information provided by West Yorkshire Police in support of their representation could be served on the premises licence holder. The licensing authority was of the view that members should consider the request to adjourn the hearing until clarification could be sought, and this was accepted. Since that time, West Yorkshire Police have confirmed that the supporting information can be served on the licence holder, and this was completed both by email and by post on the 26th of August 2020. So before proceeding to outline the application, I'd like to touch on the letter that is included as supplementary information to this pack, which expresses the licence holder's wish to surrender the premises licence. It should be noted that under the Licensing Act 2003, there is a provision to reinstate the premises licence should an application to transfer the licence be made within 28 days after the day the licence is surrendered. We are currently in that 28-day period, and therefore the hearing to consider the review application is to proceed as usual. So the application is made on the grounds of all 4 licensing objectives, and a copy of the application is sought by the licensing authority, including an evidence bundle to support it, can be found at Appendix A on page 13 of the report. There is a brief history of the premises provided at point 2 of the report under the title Background Information, and a copy of the premises licence revealing the full operating schedule can be found at Appendix B on page 23. So Julie Jackson is both the premises licence holder and the designated premises supervisor, and provided at point 6 of the report is a brief summary of the main issues leading to the submission of the review application. Further information, including the chronology of the events leading to the review application being made, can be viewed in the attached copy of the application form. So the application has attracted representations in support of the application to review the licence from West Yorkshire Police, Leeds City Council Environmental Protection Team, Leeds City Council, and Leeds City Council Clean and Neighbourhoods Team. A copy of the representation from West Yorkshire Police, including additional evidence, can be found at Appendix D on page 39 of the report. And in addition to their original representation, West Yorkshire Police have submitted further information to help inform the application process. This particular information is exempt from public viewing due to an ongoing criminal investigation, and it can be found on page 63 at Appendix C in the private pack only. And finally, the representations on behalf of Environmental Protection Team and the Clean and Neighbourhoods Team are located at Appendix F on page 67 of the report and Appendix G on page 73 of the report respectively. And that, Chair, is an outline of the application. Thank you.
Thanks, Matthew. Could the licensing authority, Samantha, present the case for reviewing the premises licence, please?
Thank you, Chair. Okay, councillors, I'm not going to go into too much detail in my summary as the evidence in support of this application for review is within the pack itself. I would like to highlight the pertinent parts of the application. To summarise, the New Middleton has benefited from a premises licence since 2008, allowing the sale by retail of alcohol between 8 AM and midnight, 7 days per week, and regulated entertainment between 10 AM and 11 PM, 7 days per week. In January 2014, Julie Jackson became the designated premises supervisor. Then she became the premises licence holder in February of the same year. The first complaint that entertainment licensing received was in April 2014. The complaint was of noise nuisance. The complainant also alleged that the premises were operating beyond their permitted hours. At this time, a warning letter was sent to Julie Jackson. No further complaints were received by entertainment licensing until December 2016. In December, the entertainment licensing section received a complaint via Leeds City Council's Environmental Protection Team. The complaint alleged noise nuisance and that the premises were operating beyond their permitted hours. A warning letter was sent, and that was followed up with numerous visits from entertainment licensing's enforcement officers and an officer from West Yorkshire Police Licensing. Unfortunately, at the time of the visits, the premises were not open. No further complaints were received until August 2017. On the 10th of August 2017, Julie Jackson was asked to attend a meeting at West Yorkshire Police Headquarters at Ellen Road. This was due to a mass brawl that had taken place at the premises. At the meeting, Julie agreed to a follow-up appointment with Leeds City Council's Entertainment Licensing Enforcement Officer to run through conditions attached to the licence. Julie was advised to read through her conditions attached to the licence before the meeting. A copy of CCTV guidelines and a drug safe information pack was posted out to Julie the same day. On the 18th of August 2017, an enforcement officer attended at the premises and read through all the conditions attached to the premises licence with Julie Jackson. Julie was advised at the time to make sure that she could operate a CCTV along with a member of her staff. Julie was also advised to incorporate checking the CCTV into her weekly safety checks to make sure that the system was working and operating for the required 31 days. Julie was advised to attend the local pub watch scheme, as this is a condition on her premises licence. Details of the meeting was given to Julie. No further issues were reported until November 2018. On the 21st of November 2018, an officer from Entertainment Licensing's Enforcement Team and a West Yorkshire Police Licensing Officer attended at the premises, and they had received a report that a non-licensing related incident had taken place, but that local police officers were unable to obtain CCTV. At the time of the visit, Julie was not on the premises, and staff working were unable to access the CCTV system. The enforcement officer issued a Section 19 closure notice for breach of condition, mainly that staff could not access CCTV and as a result could not operate the CCTV. Julie made contact and the enforcement officer and West Yorkshire Police Licensing Officer attended the following day and met with Peter Jackson, Julie Jackson's son. When officers checked the CCTV, they found that only 9 of the 32 cameras were actually working. The system was recording for the required 31 days, but the cameras did not cover all the licensed areas, again in breach of their premises licence. Peter advised that he would try to resolve the issue before Christmas of that year. On the 20th of December 2018, licensing enforcement officers and West Yorkshire Police licensing officers attended to check the CCTV. Julie advised that an engineer had been out, but that the CCTV was now only recording for 13 days. Officers agreed to come back at the end of January with West Yorkshire Police Imaging Unit to establish where the cameras should be placed. On the 1st of February 2019, enforcement officers and West Yorkshire Police Licensing Officer attended along with West Yorkshire Police Imaging. The CCTV system wasn't up to the standard as detailed in their conditions. Advice was given and we agreed to return in March, allowing sufficient time for the changes to be implemented. On the 26th of March 2019, a licensing enforcement officer along with West Yorkshire Police Licensing and West Yorkshire Police Imaging attended and checked the system. All was in order at this time and the Section 19 closure notice was cancelled. On the 12th of September 2019, Entertainment Licensing received a complaint via the Leeds Antisocial Behaviour Unit. They had received reports alleging noise nuisance, antisocial behaviour and that the premises were open until 6:30 AM. That's 6.5 hours beyond their permitted hours. A warning letter was sent along with a request for a meeting with Julie Jackson. On the 19th of September, enforcement officers attended at the premises along with West Yorkshire Police Licensing to discuss the complaint with Julie Jackson. Julie stated that she had put tenants into the premises, but that they had now left due to the complaints and a letter from Leeds City Council. During the visit, we checked CCTV and found that the time was incorrect on the system, yet another breach. This was rectified at the time, but Julie couldn't operate the system. Julie was advised that if she continued to breach the conditions of her licence, then we would have to look at reviewing her premises licence. On the 4th of November 2019, further complaints were received advising of noise nuisance and antisocial behaviour. A further warning letter was sent to Julie Jackson along with a request for her to attend an action plan meeting. On the 13th of November, Julie Jackson, David Jackson Sr. and David Jackson Jr. attended the action plan meeting. Julie was reminded of the reasons of the action plan meeting, mainly noise nuisance, antisocial behaviour and persistent breaches of her premises licence conditions. A number of action points were agreed with a timescale of 31 days to implement. A copy of the action plan notes were emailed to Julie via David Jackson Jr.'s email at the request of Julie, along with further information on drug safes. On the 14th of November 2019, further complaints of noise were received by Leeds City Council's Environmental Protection Team. We emailed a letter to Julie advising that we would attend on the 21st of November. On the 16th of November, further complaints of noise were received by Leeds City Council's Environmental Protection Team. On the 21st of November, enforcement officers, West Yorkshire Police Licensing and Environmental Protection Team attended at the premises. Julie Jackson failed to attend that meeting. On the 25th of November 2019, Julie Jackson was advised that the premises licence was now suspended due to non-payment of the fee. On the 27th of November 2019, a warning letter along with a request for a meeting was hand-delivered to Julie Jackson's home address. Julie contacted the office and advised that she could not attend due to a prior meeting. On the 10th of December 2019, Julie failed to attend the pub watch meeting, resulting in yet a further breach of her licence conditions. On the 14th of December 2019, further complaints were received of noise nuisance, antisocial behaviour and that the premises were operating beyond their permitted hours. On the 18th of December 2019, a further letter requesting an appointment was hand-delivered to Julie Jackson's home address. On the 23rd of December 2019, a licensing enforcement officer along with an officer from Leeds City Council's Environmental Protection Team attended at the premises to discuss the complaints and follow up on the action plan meeting. Only two out of the eight agreements had been implemented. CCTV was not recording for the required 31 days, the drug safe still hadn't been installed, and the CCTV showed David Jackson Sr. selling alcohol beyond their permitted hours. Julie was advised that due to the persistent breaches of condition and that the selling of alcohol without the benefit of an authorisation would now leave us with no option but to apply for a review of the premises licence. On the 18th of January 2020, further complaints were received of noise nuisance and fighting at the premises. On the 21st of January 2020, Julie again failed to attend the pub watch meeting, resulting in further breaches of her conditions. Julie Jackson has continued to undermine the licensing objectives by persistently breaching the conditions attached to her premises licence, causing noise nuisance and antisocial behaviour, all of which impact on the licensing objectives. Julie has shown that she's unable to operate with conditions implemented on her licence, and also during the action plan meeting with agreements that she failed to implement anything that was agreed. In view of the issues referred to, we would respectfully ask the licensing committee in its determination to revoke the premises licence. Under the circumstances, we believe that this is a proportionate measure in the promotion of all four licensing objectives. However, the licensing authority is aware that all options are open to the committee. And that's my summary. Thank you.
Thank you, Samantha. Councillor Richards, Councillor Wenham, I'll open it up to yourselves first for any questions.
Just for my benefit, I do apologise. We have the licence holder and we have the terminology is the designated premises supervisor. If today is about the revoking of the licence, where does that sit with the designated premises supervisor? I don't know.
The designated premises supervisor in this instance is actually the same person as the premises licence holder, so they are both Julie Jackson.
So if one is revoked, then the other one is as well automatically.
She's actually surrendered her personal licence, which is the licence that allows her to sell alcohol anywhere. So she's surrendered her personal licence as well as the premises licence. So under normal circumstances, it would have no bearing on the designated premises supervisor if the licence is revoked, because they could work elsewhere with their personal licence.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Thank you.
Yeah. Yes, thanks.
Councillor Wenham, do you have any questions for Samantha?
No, that was one of my questions I would have asked, and it's been answered. Thank you.
That's fine, thank you. So I've just two from me, possibly three. Were there any problems with the premises before the current licensee and the DPS prior to 2014? I noticed that the police have made no representations, but as licensing authority, are you aware of any problems prior to 2014?
Prior to 2014, I think we had had the odd complaint. Just bear with me, I'm just whizzing back up through my summary. I'm not aware that we'd had any complaints, but we wouldn't necessarily have a record either prior to 2014, with it being so long ago.
That's fine. And would you say there's a risk if the license is transferred either to another premises license holder or another DPS for this particular premises?
I believe there would be. The actual premises where they're situated is right in the middle of a housing estate. The stuff that's happening around there in general doesn't really suit this type of venue. It's a massive venue. It's not, in my opinion, it's not really suitable to operate just as a pub. They don't get enough customers, so then they're opening it up to functions, boxing events, things that we as a licensing authority we're not overly keen on. So like the white collar boxing, I just don't see how this premises could operate responsibly. And also the Jacksons still own the building, so even if somebody else comes in, it's still their building.
Okay. And is that boxing events as in blind, not televised, as in boxing as in person, I suppose?
Yeah, they do have organised, or they have had organised boxing events, and we have had incidents with the organised boxing events with local fighters.
Thank you. That was it from me. Anything else from Councillor Richards or Councillor Wenham or Samantha?
No, I'm fine with that. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm fine with that too as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, I'm just switching screens a lot there. Thank you, and thanks, Samantha. We haven't got the license holder here, so can we skip to the other responsible authorities, starting with West Yorkshire Police? Sarah.
Thank you, Chair, councillors. So I don't intend to go over my evidence in full. I'm sure you've all had a chance to have a look at it. I'd just like to start with the West Yorkshire Police vision and operational strategy. And that strategy states that West Yorkshire Police want to keep West Yorkshire safe and feeling safe. And we do this by reducing crime, protecting vulnerable people and reassuring the public. The New Middleton Club, unfortunately, in the past has contributed to crime levels, put the public in danger and made them feel unsafe and intimidated. It has continued to breach the conditions of its licence, and neither the public or the authorities are reassured that they're competent operators who can uphold the licensing objectives. Some of the evidence I submitted refers to really simple things that are really easily remedied. And these unresolved issues were ongoing for over 2 years. So, for example, the drug safe issue, which basically can easily be obtained by going online, ordering one, and when it arrives, you attach it to the wall. Very simple, on the floor, attach it to the floor. So I identified in my statement that going back to August 2017, the issue was still not resolved some 2 years and 4 months later. So 2 years and months, still haven't managed to get a drug safe installed, which is a condition on the licence. The CCTV operating guide, which we'd asked the venue to produce, also took some 2 years and 4 months to produce. And when it was presented to us, it was merely scrawled on the back of an envelope. So you would think, after all the input that the authorities gave them, the visits, the action plan meetings, and the possibility of a review of the licence, that it would have taken the issue more seriously and presented something in a more professional and appropriate manner so that they could show that they were upholding the licensing objectives. And even after all the input from the authorities, which included our police imaging unit, giving them a personal visit to assist with their ongoing CCTV issues, they could still not maintain a comprehensive CCTV system in accordance with their licence. So this has impeded police investigations that were concerned with the premises because the CCTV was not available. On one occasion, when the footage was available to view, I'll note that this footage consisted only of 7 days footage when there should have been 31 days footage. Within that 7-day period that they had, on 3 different days, they were seen to be serving beyond their permitted hours. So that's 3 days out of the 7 that we could only see. So who knows what was going on for the other 31 days. And I think it's not just a matter of incompetence on the operator's part, but it's a matter that they simply do not care about the law and the licence. They're not bothered about preventing crime and disorder. They don't care about public safety or being a nuisance to the neighbours. They don't care that they're reckless letting off Category 4 fireworks, terrorising local residents, children and pets. Maybe they don't even care that a car was suspiciously rammed by a masked man into the side of the building when there was a children's party going on. And also at that time, parents were picking the kids up from school, so there was lots of parents and children on the streets. And perhaps they don't even care that a man was stabbed outside the premises. So in addition to the evidence I submitted and what I've said today, you've also read the evidence at Appendix E that's exempt, which really is just the icing on the cake. So how can West Yorkshire Police deliver their strategy of keeping the people of West Yorkshire safe and feeling safe when we have a venue being run in this way? So in order to keep the public safe and feeling safe, West Yorkshire Police are supporting Leeds City Council in their review of this premises licence, and I ask you please to revoke the licence for the New Middleton Club. And that concludes my evidence today.
Thank you, Sarah. Strong stuff. Now, are there any questions, bearing in mind if there's any questions about the restricted exempt items in Appendix E? And Philippa and Debbie, you can remind me of this. We'd have to go into private session to ask Sarah questions about those particular bits of evidence. But are there any questions that aren't around the bits in Appendix E, first of all, from Councillor Richards or Councillor Wenham?
I was wondering whether it would be permissible to ask whether the approach of the licensee was cooperative in terms of working with the level of support which was offered them by both the West Yorkshire Police and the licensing authorities.
Julie did attend some meetings, and then some meetings she didn't attend. And whilst they were saying, yes, we'll do this, we'll do this, we'll do this, they just didn't do it. So there was they would do it, and then they just never did. As I've said, 2 years, 4 months later, they still can't even install a drug safe.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. I think that's all I need to ask, to be honest.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Wenham, anything for you, for Sarah?
No comment, no.
That's fine. And I suppose, Sarah, the same question from me. Do you see there's a risk if the license was transferred to another license holder or another DPS
Yeah,
premises?
I think, like Samantha said, the Jacksons own the building, so there'll always be a hand in there somewhere, and they've shown over the last number of years that they just cannot be responsible, and they're just not suited to this line of work. They're putting everybody at risk.
Okay, thank you. And just in case, do we have any questions on Appendix C from subcommittee members? That's fine.
No, I think
it speaks for itself. So thank you, and thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.
Could we hear from the environmental protection team, please, Jessica? Just on mute, Jessica.
Sorry about that. Thank you, Chair. Sorry about my technology issues today. I'm just going to go into a little brief description of the premises and the history, and then where my investigation starts. So the New Middleton is a large pub surrounded by residential properties on all sides. Attached to one side of the building is a residential property, which is also owned by a member of the Jackson family. To the other side of the premises is a car park. However, this is filled with old cars and is not used by customers. The rear of the premises has a large area, but again is not used for customers. And at the time of my visit on the 22nd of November, it contained a scrap car, a large skip overflowing with waste, and lots of other waste on the land. This was referred to the Clean Neighbourhoods team for action. The entrance at the front of the premises has a seating area and is used as the outdoor smoking area. It is the area where the noise from patrons is a particular problem. There's been a number of complaints in relation to noise from the premises over a number of years, dating back to 2011, when a complaint was made about loud music. There's been subsequent complaints in relation to loud music in 2013 and 2014. In 2016, our service received a further complaint regarding the noise from patrons who were allegedly leaving the premises between 3 and 5 a.m. There had been a lot of discussion with the premises. In particular, it was Peter Jackson who was running the premises in Julie's absence. Peter had said that smokers would be moved to the rear, signage would be put up, and action would be taken to reduce the noise. No formal action was taken at the end of that process. In November 2019, the service received 3 complaints regarding fireworks being let off at the site. My investigation into the premises started when I received a complaint on the 30th of September 2019. The complainant had previously received nuisance diaries from our service, and this had been returned and passed to myself to investigate the matter. The first diary entry for the 7th of September read, "People shouting, swearing, gathering in the doorway and on the street between the times of 10 p.m. and 11:45 p.m. A similar statement was repeated throughout the diary a further 6 times in a 2-week period. On the 8th of September, a fight had allegedly broken out and the noise disturbance carried on until 2 a.m. On the 9th of October, I wrote to the premises in relation to the noise and informed them I would be conducting a formal investigation. I received an email from the complainant on the 24th of October with an update. They stated there had been further issues in terms of noise on the 27th of the 27th of September, the 5th, the 13th, and the 18th of October. Again, noise from patrons was the main issue. The statement on the 18th of October read, "Noise all night, cars pulling up outside with music blaring out, talking to the people inside the pub. The noise went on until beyond 1 a.m. On the 19th of October, the premises had a boxing event. The complainant stated the noise from this night was continuous, with crowds shouting, swearing, arguing outside the doorway and on the street until after 1:30 a.m. A second complainant came forward on the 30th of October 2019. The theme was very similar to the first complainant. However, they stated more frequently that the noise from the shutter going down after closing was a particular problem. As I'm sure you've seen in your documentation, an action plan meeting took place on the 13th of November 2019 between myself, entertainment licensing and police licensing. And from the premises was Julie Jackson, David Jackson Sr. and David Jackson Jr. Mrs. Jackson was given a number of action points to try to reduce the noise issues and address the breaches of her licence. In relation to the prevention of public nuisance, Mrs. Jackson was asked to do the following. Put up signage requesting patrons respect the needs of the local amenity, which is point 114 on the licence. During busy periods, staff should be placed on the door leading up to the time the premises closes to ensure patrons leave quietly. And to create a written noise policy to be put in place, which will include making a note of any issues that arise, and all staff should be familiar with that noise policy. The complaints continued throughout November and December. On the 14th of December, I received an email that said, just making you aware the pub was open Thursday the 12th until 1:30 a.m. and on Friday the 13th, they eventually shut the doors at 3:30. There was noise on both these nights, and on the 13th, shouting, swearing and hanging about outside the doors until after 3 a.m. On the 23rd of December, I visited the premises with Samantha. Although some attempt had been made at signage and monitoring the noise, these actions had not been robust. The signage should have been bold and eye-catching and placed in different locations in the foyer and the outdoor areas. However, there was just one handwritten sign, which was easily missed. I hadn't noticed it until it was pointed out. Mrs. Jackson informed me at the time of the visits that the signs they'd put outside had been taken down by other people. These should have been replaced. This would have shown they were serious about tackling the situation. Bearing in mind the meeting had been pre-arranged, replacements could have been put in place in anticipation for the meeting. The notebook for any incidents and managing the noise was empty. This does not tie in with the complaints received. The book could have been used to show that regular visits to the outdoor area had been made and noted that there was no noise problems. It's unclear how frequently reminders to patrons outdoors were being made or if the situation was monitored. The CCTV did not show more than 7 days, but it did show David Jackson Sr. serving customers outside the times on the licence, which supports the allegations that they have been opening beyond hours stated on the licence. There is no evidence to show the patrons were reminded to leave quietly at closing, and overall there's little evidence to support that the licence holder attempted to manage the situation effectively. Complaints were still received in January, although less frequently, but on the 20th of January, I received an email to say people were at the premises until 2:20 a.m. and the shutters were put down at 3:40 a.m. Noise has a serious and harmful effect on human health. The effects for a victim of ongoing, persistent, distressing antisocial behaviour and noise disturbance cannot be overstated. Studies have shown the effects to cause a range of health problems, including stress, poor concentration, fatigue from lack or broken sleep, and anxiety. This is why we are supporting the licensing authority in asking the licensing subcommittee to revoke the premises licence. That's everything from me.
Thank you. Thanks, Jessica. Any questions from my colleagues? For Jessica, first of all.
Again, I think the report is kind of self-explanatory. Thank you.
I agree. Thank you. I don't think I have anything for Jessica either. You might be pleased to hear. So thank you.
Thank you.
And we don't have representation on the hearing today from the Cleaner Neighbourhoods team, although we have had written representation in support of the in support of the licensing authority's case. Do we have any further questions for anyone? Councillors Wenham or Councillor Richard?
No, not from me, thank you.
No, not from me, thank you.
That's fine. Samantha, I think you wanted just to have a bit of a sum up as part of your time.
Thank you, Chair. Basically, we the licensing authority don't take this this kind of action lightly. We rarely bring reviews, only when it's serious enough that we feel there's no other option. I think just on the evidence that's been supplied by the agencies, it just shows that the premises licence holder, Julie Jackson, and her family persistently breach the licence conditions. I think if the committee were to look at adding conditions or any restrictions, I believe that they would just be ignored, which is why we as the licensing authority are asking for revocation. That is my summing up. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. So the subcommittee will now move into private session to deliberate on the application. Could I ask that all parties, including the applicant and any licensing officers and responsible authorities, remain available should the subcommittee have any additional questions. If there are additional questions, you'll be invited back into the meeting by the clerk. Debbie.
Andy, can you put us into the breakout room, please?
Sorry about that, everyone. There's some technical issues there, but I think we're all
Yeah, we all
in.
seem to be back now.
I think you were all waiting for me, but thank you everyone for your patience there, especially with that technical hitch there. And thank you everyone for your attendance. There's no further questions from the subcommittee to anybody, so that concludes the business for today. You'll all be informed of the subcommittee's decision within 5 working days. But just say thank you very much for your attendance and patience today, especially with the technology. And have a good rest of the day.
Could members
you.
please
Thank
just
you
wait
very much.
behind, please?